What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about different MIG gun types and the consumables that go in them. Jump right into it with the typical air-cooled MIG gun. Now, we don't really think about MIG guns being water-cooled or air-cooled, but there are water-cooled MIG guns, so that makes these an air-cooled. The most popular gun you'll see in the world, definitely in the welding world, you're going to see mostly air-cooled guns, but it's possible to have a water-cooled. So a water-cooled gun is just like a water-cooled TIG torch. It has cold water that flows through the gun, runs up to the gun to keep it all cooled down to make your consumables last longer, and it recirculates back to the machine as hot water and it cools it back off. It does just like a TIG machine does with its water cooler. The purpose for that is if you're welding at really high parameters, meaning you're using really high voltage, really high wire speeds, putting down a lot of wire, really hot welding, it keeps you from burning those consumables up so quick because they can't handle that heat. So it's just like what we use for water-cooled TIG welding. Now, we don't have one here at Drake because we don't weld at really high amperage like that, but it is possible if you got on the job somewhere you'd run into that. Weld basically the same as an air-cooled gun, have pretty much the same consumable setups. Just a little bit heavier, a little bit different looking machine. But we're going to talk about the air-cooled gun today. Typical regular gun right here. We also have something called a spool gun. Spool gun is a MIG gun similar to this, but it's more shaped like an actual gun with a pistol grip. It has an actual 2-pound spool that stays on top of the gun versus wire feeding all the way through the gun like the standard gun. And the reason for that is it's made for aluminum welding. Aluminum wire is very soft, and so it's very hard for it to be squeezed through rollers and pushed for a very long distance. Like this is a 10-foot hose, so it'd be hard for it to push it 10 foot. Where we have the actual spool mounted to our gun, it's only pushing the wire a couple of inches. We don't have a spool gun here at Drake. But that's basically the setup for it. Pretty simple, you can Google them. Very common used for aluminum welding. There's also a push-pull gun. Looks very similar to this, but it has rollers built into the gun as well as into the machine. So the purpose for it is also welding soft wires like aluminum wire. That way that we can push it with the rollers in the machine and grab it and push it with the rollers in the gun. Hopefully you're going to have one of those set up. We're wanting to start a MIG aluminum class here soon. We ordered some push-pull guns so you guys can get hands-on with those. But to get back to the normal stuff, this is a carbon steel class. We'd use this regular standard gun. So let's talk about these consumables. First off, nozzle. What does the nozzle do? The nozzle is here to protect the rest of the consumables from sparks and spatter and heat. But also, it's cone-shaped to help send shielding gas to our weld pool and protect our weld pool till it cools off. So it kind of congregates that shielding gas. So we just unscrew our nozzle here. And actually the whole thing can work. Got our nozzle there. Now that is a consumable, meaning it's going to get burned up. It's going to get used up the whole time we're welding. As we're welding, we can actually take this, use our handy welpers, clean all that spatter off there and try to make it last as long as possible. You can see this nozzle is pretty burned up compared to this brand new one. Now that we got the nozzle, the next piece is going to be our contact tip. This is made out of copper. The purpose of the contact tip is the wire feeds through it, and this is where the wire gets its electrical energy from the welding. That's why it's copper, because copper is a really good conductor of electricity. This has to match the size of your wire to get a quality weld. So if we're using 035 wire size, we've got to use 035 contact tip. If not, that wire, if it was too big of a contact tip, the wire could bird's nest style. If it's too small, the wire wouldn't be able to feed through it. So you've got to have the proper size contact tip for the wire. Same thing, it's a consumable. It's going to get burned up. We're going to have to replace those as we weld with it. Now the contact tip is going to mount into the gas diffuser. So the gas diffuser has several ports drilled in it through there, and that's where the shielding gas comes to the gun and is dispersed into the nozzle. So that nozzle helps protect this gas diffuser, keeps stuff off of it, and it fills the nozzle up with gas, shielding gas to protect our weld. Also, it's where the contact tip is housed. Again, this is consumable. Not going to get burned up as often as those two, but it will have to be replaced eventually. Gas diffuser. Now, you might not be able to see, but there is a spring liner that runs all the way through this gun back into our machine. The liner is a consumable. What the liner does, that's what the wire actually spools through all the way through the gun. They're normally got Teflon lines in them, and what it does is it basically just lets that wire flow freely through the gun. These can be ruined easily by rolling a heavy ball across it, dropping a piece of metal on it, running a forklift over the gun. So you always want to be cautious where your gun's at, make sure it doesn't get messed up. But even after just normal welding, not ever harming the liner, it's going to get worn out. So that's something else that's got to be replaced. So we've got all the different parts here. Liner, gas diffuser goes over it, contact tip, has to match your wire size, goes into the gas diffuser, and then we put the nozzle over all that. Now we have a great discussion post this week on the different types of nozzles, so make sure you check out the video on the discussion post, answer those questions on all the different types of nozzles and why we pick one for whichever application. That's going to be it today on consumables and the different gun types for MIG welding. Thanks, guys.